Have you ever heard of Frankenfood? If you were born before 1990, then there's a good chance you have. And that word will immediately conjure up images of demonstrations, protests, headlines about trashed fields full of GMO crops. And maybe another word will immediately jump into your head. Monsanto, a brand that has got to be among the most infamous of all time, despite ceasing to exist in 2018 after the Monsanto company was acquired by another one of the behemoths of the agrochemicals industry. No matter when you were born, if you happen to live in the United States, then there's an extremely high chance that you've consumed or used some product made from genetically modified crops this week, or maybe you're even doing it right now as you listen to this podcast. From cotton to corn, GM crops are woven into everyday life, and you would have to work pretty hard to completely avoid them. Hi, I'm Dr. Orlando Lange. For over a decade, I've worked as a plant geneticist, and then since I've taught biotechnology. As I've moved from country to country, job to job, and moved in spaces from basic research to applied biotechnology to progressive politics, I've seen how GMOs are understood differently by different people. Through this podcast, I'm going to share what I've learned about the science of GMOs, mixing in background on genetics, biotechnology, plant science, and agricultural technology to put it in context. We'll explore the history, and we'll learn about some of the human stories behind the science. Season 1 will focus on the science of GMOs, essentially answering the question, what is a GMO, from a technical aspect. But along the way, we'll dip our toes into questions around the economic, social, and cultural implications and impacts of GMOs. And those questions about the economic, social, and cultural implications will take center stage in what I'm already planning for Season 2 of the podcast. If you're hoping that this podcast will reinforce your pre-existing hatred of GMOs, or your devotion to GMOs as a bastion of science and progress, then you will be disappointed. I'm sorry. However, what I'm hoping you'll get there are tools. Go back. If you're hoping that this podcast will reinforce your pre-existing hatred of GMOs, or your devotion to GMOs as a bastion of science and progress, then you will be disappointed. I'm sorry. However, what I'm hoping you'll get are tools in the form of knowledge and ideas that you can use in discussion with friends and in your own reflection about what you consume and how technology and economics end up shaping our lives. And failing all that, you'll at least learn some fun science facts, like the fact that DNA was first isolated in the kitchen of a medieval German castle, or that there's an almost perfect overlap in the years that the world's first GMO crop was on the market and the height of fame for the Spice Girls. Or the fact that there's an almost perfect overlap in the years that the world's first GMO crop was on the market and the height of fame for the Spice Girls. And of course, I won't miss the opportunity to dive into the world of plant genetics and plant science in general. So if you'd like to learn a little more about what is actually going on inside our little green friends, and of course, I won't miss the opportunity to dive into the world of plant genetics and plant science in general. So if you'd like to learn a little more about what is actually going on inside our green friends, make sure to listen. They may look static, but inside every plant cell is a dense molecular machinery constantly responding to the environment and taking decisions. And you'll see how crop biotechnologists have tapped into that machinery using DNA parts borrowed from viruses, bacteria, fireflies, and simply other plants to create the ever-expanding suite of GMO crops on the market. So I hope you'll give it a listen. I don't have any illusions of grandeur with this podcast, which is very much a hobby project. So that means if you happen to be interested in this topic and want to listen along, then I would love to hear from you. Find out what you're interested in hearing more or less of, and I can adapt as I go. If there are a lot of listener questions, I might even devote a whole episode just to answering them. But please, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I plan on releasing the episodes for Season 1 on a fairly regular schedule, with about one episode every 2 weeks from fall 2025 through spring 2026. And episodes will all be about 30 minutes long. You can find the feed and more details about the show at modifiedpod.com. That's modified, P-O-D, all one word, .com. At the website, you'll also find my personal Instagram and Blue Sky handles if you like to use those platforms. And you can also reach out to me via email at orlando@modifiedpod.com. That's ORLANDO @modifiedpod.com. I hope you'll be a regular listener.